When I arrived here, I said to you something like, well, my mother is an artist, but I don't really have that talent. And you said to me
that I don't believe in talent as a concept, because I think it's just a desire to do something, and the more time you put in it, the more interesting it becomes and the more you enjoy it. If you have a teacher at school who tells you you can't do something, so with my physics teacher at school, he said I wasn't allowed to continue it to GCSEs because I asked too many questions, and I couldn't accept it until I understood it. And he said, you've just got to accept it, and that's how you understand it, which I still think he was wrong.
Yeah. And this is definitely something that we think about when we're doing science programs on the radio. We think about, you know, how much do you really need to understand in order to get what's going on. I did a program about electric eels. They have these voltaic piles, essentially organic batteries inside them. And I was just saying to my producer, well, you know, we need to like talk about electrons, don't we, and how the electrons move. And my producer was like, no.
Yes, no. That's so true, because you do have to also when you want to share, you mustn't give them too much knowledge.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they won't understand the beginning stage. And even though you've got all that knowledge, and you don't want them to think that, oh, doesn't she know that bit?
Yeah.
You know, it's especially teaching colour, because people always want to overcomplicate colour. And actually colour is a very simple concept, and you've got to keep it really simple rather than overcomplicating. And even art and painting is, well, very simple if you make it simple. And that's such an important thing to share it.
There's that thing about how actually thinking about science is a really simple way of thinking about the world. It's a very, very simple idea. I mean, to me, it's like scientific thinking can be on all sorts of different parts of your life, just in that way, and just saying, I'm just going to rely on some evidence.
Yes.
I'm going to see if there's evidence for this.
It's the same as when you're looking at painting. You're not jumping to the end conclusion. You're really just analysing, you know, when I put this dark next to this light, what's going to happen? When I see if you think, I need to have a human being on my canvas at the end of the 3 hours, you just freeze and not do anything. Whereas because if you approach it really abstractly and you're just putting down patterns of values, and the person suddenly appears, and you've just got to trust that methodology works. And I'm sure that's very much the same in science. You've got to trust these methods and not predict the answer.
Not predict the answer is the whole thing, actually. I mean, I also write novels, and it's exactly the same with novels. And if I were to go in at the start of the novel trying to predict what the end would be, that doesn't come out well. It's funny, isn't it? Why is it that knowing about art is part of a cultured person's, you know, necessary repertoire, whereas knowing about science is not?
Oh, that's very interesting. Is it because art is not necessary to existence? I mean, I think that would be why, isn't it? Because art is a pleasure, but it's not a necessity.
Yeah, well, it is interesting. I mean, I suppose we're still living in that post-Enlightenment world where we're trying to understand how science fits in. And at the moment, how it fits in is it's very important, but it's not doesn't have a soulfulness to it.
And perhaps that's why it's not part of the culture, because culture you imagine has to be joyous as well.
Yeah.
You know, has to be emotive, and science by its very nature shouldn't be emotive. Yeah. It should be analytical.
Yes, it should be provable. Yes. It should be replicable. That's a good one. I'm just thinking of what the scientific equivalent would be of having my portrait painted. I think surely I had my DNA tested.
Oh, well, that's it, isn't it? The Reefco was saying that they were doing the DNA matches, and people colour them because it makes it more fun and more visually interesting, and yet those colours are complete falsification because there is no colour.
There is no colour.
There is no colour, and so, but obviously it would be very bland, and it makes it easier to explain it, but it shouldn't do because it's not actually there. So when people are worried and anxious about colour being something they don't understand, colour's the only thing that you really don't necessarily need. It's shapes and form, and if you painted someone with just pink paint, it would still look like a pink version, like Andy Warhol's paintings. It doesn't need the true colour for it to be the person. And even shapes can be disproportionately proportionate and look like the person. You don't even need the shapes to be exactly accurate, you know, to be the person or the likeness.